everybody getting laid off due to insolvency. We got served our papers on a December 23rd. Out of impulse, I booked a plane to Tokyo 2 days later. The moment I stepped in Tokyo, it was like getting a defibrillator hitting you in the chest. It was such a cultural shock that it made me realize that I was actually alive in that moment. I wasn't on autopilot mode anymore. I lived from crackers and butter for like 2 or 3 days. And yeah, that was my first encounter with German holidays. 1 week after arriving, I fell ill with the worst influence of my life. I managed to pull myself to like a doctor like 25 minutes away. And to my luck, one of the secretaries spoke English. She went with me to the drugstore and talked to the staff at the drugstore. She did that all for me. Striving for perfection is something that really inspired me. Like, all jobs are respected there. No matter how low your rank or your job is, it will always be respected. But you also have to perform in this job.
Christian, good evening, and welcome back to the good old Germany.
Good evening, Paul. Thank you for the warm welcome.
Welcome to the podcast. Happy to have you. You're the first person that I have that lived like an expat in Japan.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay, that's good to know.
And I'm extremely curious about your experience, but honestly, would like to start like we usually do here, with a bit of a background info about you. Where were you born, Christian?
I was born in Costa Rica, which is in Central America, and I was born and raised there. Yeah.
Obvious question: why the hell did you left?
Well, like many places in the world, Costa Rica is a great place to visit and to vacation, but being living there as a normal salaried person in the city is different. It's not that rosy of a picture.
How? Uh, First, to go back, of course, I'm always joking about the holiday places because the holiday places are always the, and we as tourists, we get the demo version. We go there with a lot of money, we spend 2 weeks and we think, oh my God, this
Yep.
should be such a cool country to live in.
Mhm.
And then you realize that actually it's a completely different story. But how was it to grow up in Costa Rica?
Well, it was pretty good. I mean, my family is middle to high class, so we had a lot of privileges that normal Costa Rican people do not have. We were not rich, but we were like well off. And I attended a private school and yeah, a private German school. This is why one of the reasons I that made me move to Germany later on. But yeah, we had a good life, but when I finished high school, I realized that the opportunities I would have in Costa Rica wouldn't be enough to live comfortably. So this made me move to Germany soon after leaving high school. Yeah.
Interesting. So even coming from a good family, out there to say good family,
Yeah. Yeah.
you still saw the downsides of living in Costa Rica.
Yes. Well, first you had to I wanted to study in Germany, so I had to leave anyways. But after unsuccessful studies in Germany, I realized, yeah, Costa Rica would still not be the place I wanted to live in or work in. Yeah.
How was the family? Was it supportive?
Yes, my family was very supportive. I mean, I don't know if you know Latin American people, but they're very warm and mothers. If they could have their way, they would not leave their kids leave the house.
Exactly. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah, so my mom was very sad for me to leave, and she still is. But yeah, they left me and supported me.
So it was that supportive with a laughing eye and with a crying eye, right?
Exactly,
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
yeah. Um, was Germany your goal, right? So you haven't done any research of a different country. You just knew it's going to be Germany because of a language advantage that you had.
Language and nationality. Like my mom is German, so
Ah,
I
okay.
had a German passport, which I mean, it could allow me to live anywhere in the European Union, but due to the language and the high school and all the connections, it would be the easiest choice to move to Germany, most probably.
Absolutely. You had an
Yeah.
advantage, but I have to say, Christian, how interesting is this life? Your mother is German, so she moved to Costa Rica so that you can move back to Germany. It's so interesting,
Well,
right?
well, technically, my mom has never lived in Germany. Like my grandma is German,
Ah,
but
okay. Yeah, but
my mom has never lived in Germany.
still, we
Yeah.
talk about
Yeah.
immigration background in that direction, so that you can have immigration background the other direction.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Inter- Interesting. Does she speak the language though? Even though she never.
Yeah, she does perfectly. Yeah.
That's interesting. That's so interesting. How do you keep that in a foreign language? I'm struggling with my kid. I'm originally from Romania, and we still struggle with him speaking Romanian.
You speak Romanian with him or her?
We try,
Uh,
but it never works. So, uh,
well, I get you. My sisters, both of them. The middle one, she speaks good German, but the little one, she doesn't speak German at all. Like she
mhm.
understands, but she doesn't speak it at all. So I guess it varies.
It's the
It
same.
varies.
I think it's the same. Like, it's interesting. My son somehow convinced us to speak English with him. Um, uh,
English.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
interesting.
It's interesting because he was playing in English one day when she came back from kindergarten, and we thought, "Oh, that's funny. Let's do that with him." And then he realized that we can speak English, and then he never switched back.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's very interesting.
yeah. It was an interesting. He had an English. No, I think two of them English native speakers in kindergarten, and they
Mm.
were his favorite, and he was always spending time with them because that way he got the accents from them. And it's a funny combination because she was from London and he was from Australia. So it's a
Wow.
it's a funny
Very
combination.
heavy accents.
Yeah, both of them. Yeah.
Wow.
Uh, Back to you. Um, how was the so due to the fact that you had a passport, I think that the registering process, everything was kind of easy for you, right?
Well, but it was still a cultural shock for me. Like my first time in Germany, I was 15, maybe. And that was a big cultural shock for me. Like everything is different here. The people are different. The public transport is different. The customs are different. Everything is very different. So even though I spoke the language and knew the culture, it was still a cultural shock for me to come to Germany.
Absolutely. I mean, coming from a warm country like Latin America, from a warm country from Latin America into
Yeah.
Germany, I don't want to say it's
Yeah.
cold because, of course, we talk about different perspectives, but it's different. It's a different culture for sure. I
Um,
think the adaptation was hard, but I mean, purely the administration of things. Like, you didn't
yes.
need a visa to come in. You could just travel with a passport. How was the school registering process? You had to do something special, or you just applied for it for the university?
Yeah, I applied and I had to go and register. But yeah, it was pretty straightforward. Yeah.
Okay, so it was easy. How was the? So you said you've been here first time when you were 15. That was not that was during high school, as far as I can do the math, right?
Yes. It
Okay,
was an exchange, a short exchange program for a month. Yeah.
okay, but then you took that one way ticket, and then you landed in Germany. How was the first week?
Oh my God. It's been a while. Yeah, it was very over like I studied in Cologne and I loved Cologne. Cologne is very it's very different from Berlin where I'm now. Like people are more open, more kind of more cheerful. The weather is also better. And But yeah, Cologne, I have fond memories of the city. Um, I was a, st- I was a student. I had never lived alone in my life. I didn't know how to cook anything. It was very challenging. Yeah, I almost burned down the kitchen on my first week. It was quite a challenge.
You know that moment in life when you realize that the food is not cooked by itself, the house is
Oh
not
yeah,
cleaned by itself, so
yeah,
you have to clean if you want to have the house
yeah,
clean.
yeah,
This is so bad.
yeah, yeah. I was 18. I was so immature. It was a good life experience.
Absolutely, absolutely. I still think I don't know if I said this story before, but I was studying not far away from home, and I was going. For me, it was a different experience because I was going with the train Mondays, no Sunday evening, and Friday evening going home. Um, and it was always the same. The first 2 days eating with the money that you got from home, then the next 2 days eating the food that you got from home, and Friday hunger.
Yeah, yeah. I got that once because uh during Easter week
Yeah,
here everything closes and I
yeah.
didn't know that because in Costa Rica everything's like the supermarkets are still open during national holidays, but I didn't know they were closing down here. So I wanted to go shopping on like Friday and everything was closed and I didn't have anything. So I lived from crackers and butter for like 2 or 3 days. And yeah, that was my first encounter with German holidays and everything being closed.
I mean, now I understand it. After it took me some years to understand, but I understand the
Yeah.
purpose of everything being closed because the old people working in the stores need their holiday with the
Yeah.
families, right? But the shock is
Mm.
huge because it was the same for me in Romania. Like everything was
Yeah.
open all the time.
Yeah,
Sunday
exactly.
everything is open. So
Exactly.
yeah. Um, how was standing in Cologne? I do guess that you had an international environment around you, right? So not only German students, right?
No, I like my student dorm alone, I shared it with three other people. We were a German girl, a Spanish girl, and a Mexican guy. That alone was very international. And
Yeah.
everybody spoke Spanish. Even the German girl spoke Spanish.
That's so nice. Yeah.
So yeah, it was pretty fun.
That's so nice. That's really nice.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, all the students areas. I think if you talk about Heidelberg, if you
Mm,
talk about I don't know Berlin for sure, but if you talk
yeah.
about Köln, every of the big,
Tubingen, yeah, everything. Yeah.
absolutely
Mm,
everything is
yeah.
international, and which makes a lot of
Mm,
sense. And I think it
mm.
makes the process easier for you, right?
Yes, it is like knowing that everybody's going to something similar, coming from somewhere else, and not having your family or your close friends nearby, and everybody kind of bonds in a way.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
So you did your studies in Cologne. You start working in Germany.
I did 1 year in Cologne, then I realized I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't like what I was studying, and I was studying on the German government gives you something called BAföG, which is like not a scholarship, but a student loan that you can without interest. And I was on that. And I already switched my major once. And if I wanted to switch it again, it would be much more difficult. So I realized I didn't know what I was doing. So I had
Out
to
of
go back
curiosity,
to Costa
out
Rica. Yeah.
out of curiosity, what were
Yeah.
you studying?
I started with economics.
Okay.
Um, I realized very quickly it wasn't my lane. And then I went to geography because half of my family are geographers for some reason. But I also realized it's not my thing. So yeah,
I have to say
yeah.
respect. I mean, the fact that you realize it's so cool. The fact that you realize it so early, it would have been even worse to realize it after you finish it. That oh, I cannot work in this shit. I don't know what I've done, but I think it's better if you realize it during studies.
Well, I guess um, I really think people completing their studies is impressive because I was not able to pull it through. I was like, this is boring. I cannot study this. It's Yeah, I don't
Uh,
know. I think people that pull through, even studying something they don't like, is very commendable. So,
Absolutely, absolutely. I have a good friend. I have a good friend who studied economics, and he finished only because it was his father's wish, and
mm,
he hated
mm,
the guts out of it. And now
oh,
he's a famous hairstylist in Romania. So
oh, is he?
basically
Wow.
zero, like nothing, like not even close ever will meet. But I
Well, he finished it and told his parents, here, I did this, now let me do whatever I want."
exactly, yeah. Uh, uh, so you went back to Costa Rica,
I did. Mm.
studying there, or you came back after a while?
No, after 1 year, I came back. Like from Germany, I came back right away, and I started working at a call center first because I didn't know what I wanted to do. So, but I needed money. I needed to. Well, I was living with my parents, but I needed something to do, so I started working in
Correct.
anything I could. Yeah.
And how did you manage to come back to Germany?
Well, after a year working at the call center, I realized now this is horrible, especially because I'm a very introverted and shy guy, and having to be on the phone all the time is complete torture. So, I decided I need to study again, so I studied software engineering at university. I thought I'm good with computers. I like video games, so maybe there's a connection there.
I like how things
And
connected. So,
I managed I managed to do it 2.5 years. I hated university. I hated everything about it. I hated the subjects I had. I hated the group work. I hated I'm not a person that can study. I like if something doesn't interest me, I have a very hard time following through. But I managed to do it for 2 years, working on the side as well to finance the studies myself. But after 2 years, I said I can't do this anymore. So I enrolled in a online boot camp, a coding boot camp, and that prepared me for a job. And I applied for jobs in Germany. And after like a month of applying, they told me, "Hey, we're gonna hire you. Come here in 2 weeks." I packed a suitcase and I came to Berlin, and that, that's been my place since then.
again with the crying guy and with the laughing guy from the family, right?
But this time, I think everybody kind of knew that this would be kind of permanent.
The end game,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Uh, I have to go back a bit to the call center. I work in a
Sure.
work concert in the call center myself for I
You
think
know,
three
you
months,
know.
3 months of my
Oh,
life,
mm,
calling USA, Canada from Romania, and I think USA, Canada, and
mm,
UK.
mm,
It's an awful job, and whomever did that,
mm.
everyone has all my respect. I don't know how it's running now. I understood that now it's running with AI and so on, but
Oh, yeah,
it's a it's an awful job, and
it is.
the amount of hate that you get, and I think the
No,
amount
yeah.
of I don't know if it happened to
Mm,
you as well, but the
yeah,
amount of
I did. I did.
you have that
Mm,
you had that list as well, the printed A4 papers with the phone numbers and with the company names and just calling random companies. Yeah,
oh,
yeah.
you did cold calls?
I did cold calls,
Oh
man.
no, that's well, I did fraud calls. Like I worked for an online poker provider, and I had
Ah,
to
okay.
deal with fraud, so they were always very defensive,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
but
for sure.
I don't know if cold calls is even worse than that.
It's even worse,
Probably.
trust me.
It's probably.
So I have a story from a work colleague of mine who because
Mm.
the you had the text, you had the fake name, you had the fake text that you had to read
Mm.
and so on. So everything because you are not allowed to do cold calling from Romania. Romania was not in EU back then.
Yeah, I had to do the same. Hide my location. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the colleague of mine said, "Yeah, well, I need to talk with Mr. Jones. I don't remember the names, but doesn't matter. I need to talk with Mr. Jones." And said, "Yeah, what do you want to talk to him? I'm his wife. It's a personal matter." And I said, "He's dead since 2 years."
Oh, Jesus
Yeah,
Christ.
so
No.
you can imagine you don't know what you just hang up. There is no there is There is no social convention that can tell you how to behave in this case.
Yeah, yeah.
No, it's
No, totally understandable.
yeah.
So,
Um, so you had the software job. You did developing,
developer, yeah,
web developer.
full stack developer. Yeah.
Ah, full stack. Nice, nice. Not an easy one. Full stack. For how long have you done this in Berlin?
Well, I started as full stack, but I transitioned to front end for the last 6 years. But yeah, I've been doing this 9 years now. Yeah.
Okay. Do you enjoy it?
Some days I do, some other days it's a struggle. But I think, well, I'm very thankful to have a job right now. I think the tech market is a catastrophe right now. Investment dried up, AI looming, everything is against the tech market right now. So I have a good job. I work remotely.
Ah,
I
nice,
cannot complain. I cannot
nice.
complain.
So
It's a good job. Mm.
that's the most important.
Yeah.
You you were saying that somehow at least now I like to go slide slowly to your Japan
Of
experience
course,
because
of course.
you said in the TLDR at the end you said I need a reset when you moved to Japan. What was the trigger that made you say I needed a reset?
So I was I've been working at startups basically for the last 8 years. All two of them went down insolvent. Then I was working for this other startup for the last 5 years, and I thought this is gonna be stable. And even after 5 years, the company can still fail. So after 5 years at the company, everybody getting laid off due to insolvency. Okay, we got served our our papers on a December 23rd,
Oh
which
my
was
god, man.
which was
Oh
insane.
my god.
Yeah, yeah. Everybody was really like, even the person handling the insolvency case told us, the secretary said, I refuse to hand out the layoff papers on a December 23rd. You do it yourself. So the lawyer had to hand out the letters himself
Of course,
because
man. I
it
mean,
was such an awful day.
how
Yeah.
awful is that to do it before Christmas?
Well, it's unfortunately a very common situation, I think. Yeah. So I got laid off, and while I was looking for a job, I had some time to spare, and I noticed my life had been in like some sort of an autopilot mode for the last few years, just working, sleeping, eating, meeting my friends, but nothing. There was no passion. There was nothing going on. So I thought, I have time now. I have I can do something crazy. And I thought about Japan. Like, I was never that interested in Japan, but I thought I always wanted to visit. But then I never had time or money, or then the pandemic came, so there was no chance. But now I did. So in January 2024, I just, out of impulse, I booked a plane to Tokyo 2 days later. Like, it was a very impulsive thing, but I did it. And the moment I stepped in Tokyo, it was like getting a defibrillator hitting you in the chest. It was such a cultural shock that it kind of made me made me realize that I was actually alive in that moment. I wasn't on autopilot mode
Was
anymore.
it the big city or was it Tokyo itself?
Thing like, I Berlin is about 4 million inhabitants. It's big in European standards, but Tokyo has 35 million people. Everything is full of skyscrapers. There's people everywhere. It's a complete different type of city, and that and all the lights, all the sounds, all the trains, everything, the customs, the people, the way, the etiquette, everything is so different that yeah, you feel like you're in another planet in Japan. And I bet it's the same for most Asian cities as well.
Hmm. It's interesting because it's an interesting perspective because I'm a big US fan generally, and I had somehow this feeling in New York, and that's why I was asking you because I was curious if it's maybe the city, the big city, and because I think
I've never been to New York, but I would probably feel very similar. Like just the fact that you have skyscrapers, because Germany doesn't have skyscrapers. Maybe Frankfurt, but
Frankfurt, but
just a few. It's not even that many. It's
Frankfurt
five
is
or
not
six.
Frankfurt is not the German city. Let's be honest.
Yeah, that's true. It's very it's very different.
And especially since Brexit, it got really international because all the banks moved back from London, and
Mm,
now
mm,
it's a big bank center at the moment, and
I haven't been to
it's
Frankfurt in a while, so I cannot tell. But yeah, it's probably very different.
yeah, it's a very different. Of course, the city center, they have this banking style. Everybody suit up. You have it's a
Mm,
interesting feeling when you walk
mm,
that neighborhood. But and I had this feeling in New York. Like I read actually today an interesting post on Reddit when someone said that the New York is something that you have to do in your 20s,
mm.
and London is something that you have to do in your late 30s, because the spirit of the city, for example, in New York it's alive,
It's
like
younger. Mm,
exactly is younger.
mm. That
Um,
makes sense.
yeah, yeah,
That's funny.
that's interesting. Yeah. Um, so you had the visit. How long was the visit?
1 week. Only Tokyo for 1 week, but yeah, it left a big impression in me.
And what sparked the idea to say, okay, I will. Of course, you always say, we just talk at the beginning of this, that you have the demo version where you say,
Mm.
okay, I would like to live here. Um, what sparked the idea to actually do it?
I didn't have the idea to live there still, but I wanted to explore it more. And back then, um, like back 2024, early 2024, there was still no digital nomad visa. They launched it in March or April of last year.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when I had the idea, oh, I can actually live here for a few months and see how it's actually living in Japan. Maybe I will hate it. Maybe it's not for me, but I needed a test run to see
Mm-hmm.
if I could imagine myself living in Japan.
And you applied for the visa when you realized it's possible. You wrote that the embassy said you were one of the first Asians in Germany. Was it that early
So
when you applied for it?
so the thing is, I started my new job in February of that year. So like a couple of weeks after coming back from my first trip to Tokyo. And it was a fully remote work, but like I just joined the company. I didn't want to say anything. So the 6 months passed. My probation period was over,
How could
and I
be?
was,
How could
yeah,
be? Sorry for interrupting. How could you
yeah,
go in and say, "Nice, I signed the
yeah,
contract. I
yeah,
changing time zones, but I still
yeah,
work for you. It's all good. Like
yeah,
I'm still doing
yes,
my job."
yeah. No, I couldn't do that. I had to wait and be a good guy until letting out the bombshell. No, after 6 months, it was August, and my friends convinced me to go to Japan with them. So I was in Japan for 3 weeks. This time, not only Tokyo, but this called the Golden Route, which is Tokyo, Osaka, and Kyoto. That's like the
Hmm.
normal route that the first time tourists do, and it's the most crowded one. But yeah, it's basically what you have to see your first time in Japan. I did that for 3 weeks, and I realized, yeah, I really like this country. I need to spend more time here. So I came back on the plane in mid-August, and before going on the flight, I already had asked my company, "Hey, can I work from Japan for the next 6 months. And they said, yeah, no problem, because the digital nomad visa in Japan allows you to not pay income taxes in Japan. So I'm still legally a resident in Germany. I still pay my taxes in Germany, I still pay
Oh,
healthcare and
interesting.
everything.
Interesting.
So nothing changes for the company. I still have my German contract. I will just be living 6 months in Japan legally, working there.
Mm-hmm.
But nothing changes. So that's why my company could not say no. Like nothing changed for them. Only my time zone. That's all. And they agreed with that. So the day I came back from Japan from that second trip, I went to the embassy with all my papers. Hey, here I'm applying for the digital nomad visa. And then the lady at the counter was like, "Oh wow, then you must be the first one to get visa here." And I'm like, "Really? It's been 3 months since you launched the visa." And she said, "Yeah, it's very niche." It's
Which makes
yeah.
sense. Yeah, I mean,
The thing is, the requirements are very high. Like you need a very high salary and 6 months for a lot of paperwork, and only for 6 months. Most people would just go for to Thailand or Spain or Portugal, which offers longer visas. The requirements are much lower, so the digital nomad visa for Japan is not very attractive for people.
but when you say a lot of papers, you need something which is unreasonable, or it's just a lot of bureaucracy involved.
The thing is, you need to like write about 3 forms, and the forms are very, how to say, ambiguous. You don't know what to answer, what not to answer, because the forms are thought for more like longer term visas, for like work visas or whatever, but the forms are the same. So the
Mm-hmm.
thing is, the Japanese government, I think they implemented a half-assed solution for the digital nomad visa, because you are technically a long-term resident, but you're not a resident at the same time. So many things apply, but not apply. And I got that the day I arrived. Well, looking back into the future, the day I arrived in the airport, and then the the immigration staff looking at my visa, they were like, "What the hell is this?" They had to call somebody else. That person had to call somebody else, and they had to take me into a room and see what
Not
the hell
because of
this
you,
visa is about.
not
No,
because of you, just
no,
because they have
they
never
had
seen
never
it.
seen that visa. So yeah, that's looking into the future. But yeah, you have to file all these papers, wait 4 to 6 weeks, and then you can go to Japan, actually. So
Do
yeah,
you need an income? Do you need an let's say a good bank account, or you just need a stable income?
you need to earn more than, well, with the current exchange rate, about $65,000,
Okay, okay,
which is very high. Even
yeah,
like I think only US tech people can comfortably do this, because I think in Europe it's still
it's
65,000 is
true.
still very high.
Yeah, it's really high. It's high. Yeah. And do they ask something about so because I do guess that you can go as a freelancer as well.
Yeah, you can, but you have to prove with tax statements or whatever that you make more than this threshold.
Okay, so a bank account is not enough when you say, okay, I have sixty
No,
thousand.
no,
That's
you need to
interesting.
prove income, not savings. Income.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, that's an interesting one. So you just fill in the paper, you just get the income. And how's the status with the medical insurance? Do you get
You
everything
need
from
to you need
German?
to you need to have travel or health insurance covering up to that amount at least, and repatriation or death insurance as well. So if you die, you need to be able to show that you can they can take your body back to your country.
There's such a morbid sentence, but I
It
understand
is,
the
it
reasoning
is,
behind
yeah,
it. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, now that I say it, it's very more risk, but yeah,
Like
yeah,
repatriation, basically. So they have to put you in coffin and then send you back. So you have to be assured for that. That's all.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah, okay, that's interesting. So you waited for 4 weeks. Was there any kind of interview or something?
No, I just no, there was nothing, just the forms, and they didn't contact my employer either. So yeah, I guess everything
Okay.
was okay.
I think they didn't even know how to proceed with it. Like they just okay
Uh,
this is the visa, this could be the process. Let's see what will end up
yeah,
happening
yeah,
here.
yeah,
Okay, fly to Tokyo. How was the living arrangements?
yeah.
Or maybe tell us something about the first week.
So the thing is, um, Japan housing is not that expensive compared to other places, but you're not a long-term resident, so
They don't
you
like you.
you can only apply to Airbnbs or monthly places. Like I don't know if you know Wunderflats here in Germany, that type of arrangement,
I
monthly
know them. Yeah.
places, which are much more expensive than normal places. So the place is expensive and very small for like Western standards, but it's the only thing you can rent. Well, you
So,
could also rent like share houses, which are like WGs here in Germany, like shared rooms,
yeah,
which
yeah.
are more cheap. But I didn't want to do that. I wanted to live 6 months in somewhere I would be comfortable by myself.
What do you mean when you say small in square
Um,
meters? When you can give us a number?
yeah, my I chose a bigger room because I thought 6 months living in a shoebox would not be that nice, but it was 35 square meters. But the normal studio size is about 25 square meters. And that's for about at least 1,000 to 1,004, 1,000 to 1,500 euros a month. Mm.
Oh man, like
Yeah,
35 square meters. I think you get a good VG here.
yeah. It's very expensive for what it is. If you lived long term in Japan, it's cheaper, but as that those monthly places are your only choice as a digital nomad, basically.
Okay, so
Yeah.
basically they have a business to cover the use case of being someone there
Yeah.
for a
You,
limited time.
you only pay 1 month of deposit, and that's it. Yeah.
Okay,
Mm.
okay. You arrived. You had the apartment. You had the apartment from here, I do guess, right?
Yeah. I booked it from here. Yeah.
You booked it from here. You arrived. You
Mm.
found your apartment. How was the first day, Christian?
It was very surreal. I couldn't believe I was in Japan. Actually, the days before going to Japan, I was so anxious, knowing that I'm going somewhere where I don't speak the language. Everything is different. I don't know anybody. I was so anxious that I had to medicate myself for the days before. Anxiety pills just to be, just to be able to sleep and whatever. And the moment I stepped in Tokyo, the whole anxiety just went away. I was like, this is okay. Everything is nice here. Everything is safe. People are super nice to me. Even if they don't speak Japanese, even if I don't speak Japanese, people are very nice to me, and we try to translate somehow.
But
Uh,
the could you come along with English?
Very difficult. Like things like signs, transportation signs, and menus in many restaurants are in English, but some other restaurants do not have English menus, and I would say one in every 20 people could speak English. It's very, and not it, like they cannot even speak words of English. Like the level of English in Japan is really, really bad. It's
Did you get to understand words to be able to go to help yourself?
I was I had been learning Japanese for at least 2 to 3 months. Like I had private classes once a week. So I could combine with at least 20, 30 phrases, but aside from that, it was all unknown territory for me.
And how was the first shopping experience? Because you had the apartment, you had to go shopping.
Yeah, so I, I had to go. I went to the supermarket and I was like, what the hell is everything? Like, I had to pull out my phone and Google Translate everything, and then I realized I bought the wrong type of soup, or this is this. I didn't buy oil. I bought soy sauce without notice, like things like that. But with time, I realized actually what is what. The thing is, most things you can find there. The only thing you will not find in Japan or easily cheese, cheese or good like milk products. Like yeah,
Dairy. So dairy products, not so
very hard
okay,
to
interesting.
find. Yeah.
But therefore you have the best beef in the world. So
I could not complain. Like, yeah, I missed the cheese, but everything else is spectacular. And the food scene in Japan is just spectacular. Yeah.
um, did you manage to? You went alone. You said you went alone, right?
Yeah.
Um, you were living in a good neighborhood in Japan, as far as I read from your answers. Like in a let's say in a safe neighborhood, right?
Well, everything is safe
Oh, okay.
in Japan. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you manage somehow to get a community? How was the socializing?
So, yeah, the first few weeks I didn't do anything, and then I started wondering, yeah, let's 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 try and let's try and meet people here. So the first thing I did was gather courage and go to my local pub on my street. Like what's called an izakaya. It's like a pub where they also cook food, but the host also speaks to you and the other patrons. And I was so nervous. I had never done something. I had never gone to a bar myself in Germany. Like I'd never gone to a bar alone
Not
in
even
Germany.
into a kneipe.
No, I'd never done that in my life. Yeah. So I went there not speaking Japanese, and then yeah, I lived in a zone where there's not many foreigners, so they were very like curious that this foreigner is going to this hole in the wall bar and joining, and then nobody spoke English. Well, one of the patrons and the clients at the place spoke some English, so with some Google Translate and alcohol, everybody managed to get along somehow. It was very fun, but very, very nerve-wracking at the same time. I had to extract every ounce of Japanese I could speak, every word I had learned. I had to get it out, and I was so tired afterwards. It was very hard. Yeah. So I went to this bar first, and then I went to a meetup for Spanish to Japanese tandem. And that was pretty bad. That was not
Really?
enjoyable. It was not enjoyable at all. Like,
Why?
so I went to an event on meetup.com,
Hmm.
and I realized when I arrived at the place I arrived, it was full of Australians that didn't speak English, that didn't speak Spanish. And I was like, why are these people here? And then I realized that the venue had booked an event for international travelers at the same time. So it was a small group of like Spanish tandem speakers and a group of like random international travelers or like expats, Australians mostly trying to hit up on girls or something. So it was a bit bizarre, and like the atmosphere was very weird and the people were kind of weird. So yeah, I left pretty soon after.
but but your English is really good, so I have to say you could have get in contact with the Australian guys as well, or was
Yeah, I
just the
did. I did, but
they
yeah,
were
there
not there
were
to socialize.
they were there for something else.
You are not
Yeah.
in their area of interest. Let me
No,
put it
no, no,
this way.
no. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Okay, that was the beginning, and how did it evolve?
Well, so 1 week after arriving, I fell ill with influenza, but it was the worst influenza of my life. I
Oh
was,
man,
I had 40 degrees for like 10 days in a row. And at a few moments, I was like, I need to go to the hospital. I'm dying. Like, this is. This is really bad. I have never had a flu this bad. Luckily, well, I managed to pull myself to like a doctor like 25 minutes away. And to my luck, the one of the secretaries spoke English and the doctor spoke English. And that was not advertised. And I lived in a random neighborhood away from all the foreigner neighborhoods. So it was very lucky on my part. And that was when I realized I was feeling really bad, but I realized how nice people in Japan are. Like the secretary, after the doctor confirming I had influenza, he did a test on me. She went with me to the drugstore and talked to the staff at the drugstore that I needed this and this medication. She did that all for me. Like she went to the drugstore with me. And
That's nice.
I was so embarrassed but thankful that they did that for me. I felt it what made me really emotional at the moment because I felt really bad and I was alone and I didn't speak Japanese, but they accommodated me somehow. Yeah, that speaks a lot for Japanese people. They're
Absolutely, absolutely.
so nice.
I try to imagine that in Germany.
Yeah. No, would never happen. First, they will tell you, yeah, drink some tea and have some ibuprofen. Yeah, and just go away. After a 3 hour wait, of course. Yeah,
By the way, we come from different areas of Germany, but it's happening absolutely the same. So
I think it's
feel
everywhere in Germany.
absolutely, absolutely. What's your temperature? 39. That's okay. You're still
Yeah,
not even 40. What do you
take
call?
some tea. Take some tea,
What do you
and
call?
yeah.
Leave us alone.
I mean, I don't want to diss like my doctor in Germany is really good. He's kind of crazy, but he's really nice. But yeah, the German healthcare system and the empathy in some people and how overburdening it is, it just makes a bad experience for everybody, I think.
I think the problem is that they are incentivized based on the amount of patients that they are seeing, and that's a
Yeah.
problem. That's
Yeah,
a
if you're
problem.
private insured, then suddenly their eyes are bright and like, what can we do for you?
Yeah,
Please,
but
please, just
But look, I asked that as well because
yeah.
I don't know if you know the system, but the system is kind of messed up because
Of course it
uh,
is. Yeah.
I have asked one of my colleagues why this does he always gets an appointment the next day. So they have private insurance, okay,
Of course, yeah.
and he said that the Gesetzlich, I don't know what's the English word for it. So the
The
mandatory,
public insurance, yeah,
public
health insurance.
mandatory health insurance, they are limiting the doctors, so they are only paying them for 8 hours a day.
Yeah.
And the public ones, they are paying them unlimited, so basically they can
Yeah, they're
take as many
capped.
patients. Exactly, they
The
are not
private
capped.
insurance pays up to 5 times what the public one pays.
Yeah,
So obviously the doctors are incentivized to only
absolutely.
to prioritize private insured
And that's
people.
it. And the second, the problem is that it's a game of numbers. So as many
Mhm.
people as you are able to see, you get more money.
Yeah,
And I think
it's like a
you get his
McDonald's, just quick,
absolutely
cheap and quickly. Yeah,
15
yeah,
minutes. You're out. Next,
yeah,
next.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay, but that's a nice experience for being in a situation of disease of being sick to have someone to
Yeah,
really help you. I think that's a nice experience.
yeah.
But um, what was the time zone difference between Japan and
It was
Germany?
8 hours. Um, so luckily with my current position, I have very few meetings. That's why I think I'm very privileged. I have like 2 or 3 meetings a week. So, and my boss was so kind to move all the meetings to the morning in Germany so that all my meetings were like 5 or 6 p.m. in Japan, which is totally manageable. A few times I had to stay up at 12 in the morning or something for meetings to have with people in the US because my company also has an office in Los Angeles. So I had to stay up. I had
Wow.
to stay up until 1 or 2 in the morning, but those were exceptions. I mostly had normal business hours in Japan, 9 to 6, 9 to 7, 8. It's fine.
So you start the let's say the roaming around process. Uh, with you did that alone?
What process exactly do you mean?
The traveling, not traveling, but going around the city, like
Oh yeah,
walking around and so on.
alone. Mhm.
Did you do that alone?
Yes.
Okay. And was it um, somehow you managed to build a community in that time, right?
Yeah, but the thing is, Japan, or at least Tokyo, is I think the most friendly place for like single or people alone. Like
Really?
it is very friendly because there's so many people alone or like workers or like every like I think and this stat might be pulled out of my somewhere, but it's I think about 50% of people in Tokyo are singles. So all the restaurants, all the bars, all the facilities, everything accommodates single people. There's no shame. I think, well, I don't know about you, but if I go to a restaurant in Germany, I won't feel uncomfortable, but I will feel uneasy a bit. Like
Social pressure.
exactly. It feels kind of wrong to go to a restaurant alone by yourself here. In Japan, you don't feel that at all. You feel there's all the other people here, or most of the other people are also alone here. So you don't feel ostracized, or you don't feel weird about being alone.
But it's so interesting. Why do you think is the reason why there are so many alone? They have a grinding culture of hard working.
Japan is known to be the work culture is brutal, is very bad. A lot of overtime. No, they get 10 paid days off per year, and from those you have to subtract sick days as well. And then most people do overtime. It's very common for people to work 12 to 16 hours a day. It's changing because yeah, it's not sustainable, but yeah, the work culture.
We have a nice advantage in Europe, I must say.
Yeah. The work-life
Um,
balance here is very good compared to the rest of the world, I would dare to say. Yeah.
I also due to my work, I have some experience with the U.S.
Oh
labor
yeah, the
system, and
US is also
that's
pretty bad. But
that's also
Japan is
pretty
even
bad.
worse than the US. I think only South Korea or in China might be worse than Japan, I think.
I had someone from South Korea, an American lady who was an ESL in the ESL program. I don't know if
Mm,
you know the ESL, English
yeah.
as second language, yeah.
Yes. Yes.
And she was a teacher in South Korea since 14 years, I think. And she said, I love living in Korea, but I'm kind of sick of working in South Korea.
That's
And
the thing.
and she said that she needs to take time off between contracts to be able to do a round trip to visit something in the summer when the school is out, because otherwise they have to work all the time.
Yes. I can imagine that. Like after my time in Japan, I realized if I lived in Japan, it would mostly it would most likely be only be if I'm able to land a remote job from Europe or the US because otherwise I mean not all like especially in tech the companies are not that brutal with their workers but still the conditions are much worse compared
Mm.
to Germany at least so yeah
Europe in I think we have an advantage with we have an advantage with the European Union because yeah
yeah
they are building a nice defense fence.
yeah
Um, what about the food? How was the food adaptation, Christian?
it was like I've never had that like that I didn't cook a single time in Japan and let's just say that the food is so amazing so fresh so the 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 culture in Japan no matter what job it is they will always strive for perfection and that also is reflected in their cuisine in their food they always strive for perfection like whatever they do based on pressure or desire, they will always strive to make the best food or the best garbage disposal, the best office worker. Everything is striving for perfection. And that is reflected in the food as well. And as a European, the prices are very low as well for the food. So I could eat like a king for 7, 8 euros. Like a king. Like
Oh,
yeah.
but they destroyed your sushi experience, right? You cannot have sushi anymore in Europe.
Exactly. I will never have sushi in Germany again. At least not for from like a cheap or like reasonably priced place.
Yeah, the
The
supermarket sushi, the famous
Oh my God,
supermarket.
no. And I don't know if you've seen the onigiris, the rice pockets
Yeah.
that you can buy here. They cost like, at least in my supermarket, about 3 euros 50. They're super small and they taste like crap. In Japan, they cost less than $1, and they're amazing. So yeah,
What was the thing that you like the most?
food wise
Yeah, food
or
wise,
in
food
general.
wise.
So all the food, like all the restaurants I visit were amazing. But I think on well, for once, I had the best pasta of my life in Japan, which is amazing. Like pasta in Japan, but I went to this restaurant
Two
and
Italian, two Italian died now.
I
Two,
know. I'm sorry, I don't know why. And it was a normal tomato sauce pasta. It was a very simple pasta, but I tasted like this. I've never tasted something like this ever. Maybe they used MSG, like
yeah,
or something. I don't know what secret ingredient they used, but it was the best pasta of my life. That's yeah. But aside from that, the sushi, the tonkatsu, which is like breaded pork or breaded chicken, with curry or not. I don't know. Well, a sushi, tempura, which is also like fried seafood or fried vegetables. Everything was in my 6 months in Japan, I had two meals what I thought they were just like average or like not very good. Two meals out of 6 months. That's how good the food I thought over there.
I can see it based on the pleasure that you have when you talk about it. You
I
say it
miss it so
without
much.
words. You
I
say
miss
it
it so
without words.
much.
Yeah.
I miss it so much. Yeah, coming back here, it just yeah, just
Like
makes you think.
you don't like the Käsespätzle or you don't like the schnitzel with pommes or what?
We don't even have to. We only have dinner here up here in Berlin.
Ah,
That's
true. True, I
which
forgot.
dinner is really good, but you can only have that so much.
But you have, let's not forget, you have currywurst as well.
Yeah, but that's not that easy to find. Or well, at least where I live. And it's okay. It's okay, but it doesn't drive you crazy. At least not me.
I I don't like it. I
I get it. I get it.
I
It's
don't
it's
like it.
just okay. It's just
I
okay.
just don't. I can't. I'm sorry. I'm
Mm-mm.
sorry for
Okay.
everyone. I can't.
It's
I
okay.
just yeah. What was the so you had a huge gap in the time difference. You had to adapt to a smaller living place. But what of all this was the most challenging things that you need to adapt to in Japan?
Language barrier, 100%. Like
Okay.
that like I wanted to talk to people. I wanted to like understand what was being said. Even reading because they all use, their Chinese characters that you don't know how to read. Like you don't even know how to read because if you're in Europe and you're in a strange country, you still know how to read. I mean, you don't know what it's saying, but you know what you are reading at least, and not even that in Japan or China or South Korea. So the language barrier was, I think, the biggest challenge.
Mm, I mean, the fact that not that many people were speaking English, I think that make it made
Yeah.
it complicated. But did you get I think it's a bit far fetched, but did you get a friend there, like someone that you can spend
I
time
I
with?
I, I made friends. There's this app called Time Left. I don't know if you've ever heard. Called It's, well, at least it's very popular in Berlin too. But basically, you sign up, you complete a short personality test, and then they pair you with 5 or 6 other strangers to have a dinner on a Wednesday night. So you go there and you don't know anybody, and then you're supposed to meet people from our different personalities and like backgrounds and stuff. So I did this in Tokyo, and I met three great friends through this app. Um, yeah, like even like other expats, but also like a half Japanese, half Peruvian girl. Like there's all sorts of people on this app, and I think it's a good way to meet other people through food. Yeah, the food was also amazing on that dinner. So yeah,
Well,
even if
I
you don't like the people, you at least have good food.
the whole commercial about to I think there was a kind of vodka as I was growing up commercial when they would say vodka connecting people. It was the
Alcohol connects
parallel to,
people. Yeah.
exactly. It was a parallel to Nokia connecting people. The
I
commercials from back then.
forgot. I forgot, totally forgot about that motive.
But I would paraphrase it and said that it's food connecting people in your case because
Maybe
of
I'm just a food enjoyer, but I think it's at least worth just for the food itself.
but were you always like this with food, or was it
No,
just the
actually not.
Japanese was?
Yeah. I'm actually very picky. I don't eat seafood or whatever. And in Japan, I tried everything. Like, there's very few things I would say no to in Japan, like maybe shark fins or something like that.
Think about your mother now because she was struggling to cook for you everything that you could
No,
eat only.
it's my mom. It's my mom instilled this fear of fish in me. Like
Ah,
in Costa Rica,
really?
she would tell me never to eat fish at restaurants in Costa Rica because, and I understand in Costa Rica, I would also be very careful eating fish because it might be not cleaned or not fresh properly. I think in Germany the risk is much lower, but I still have that fear of eating seafood or fish in like restaurants here.
I always like going to restaurants near a lake and eating seafood. Makes
Yeah.
total sense because
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. If you go to Hamburg or whatever, you know the fish will be at least fresh. But if you're inside Germany somewhere, and then well, I guess it's okay in Germany, but I would still like my mom instilled a big fear of fish in me, so I would only do this in Japan, I think.
Okay. Okay. So my example doesn't make sense then.
Yeah.
Um, was there something which took you completely by surprise that you didn't know about Japan before moving there? Let's say it like this.
Mm, mm, surprise. Well, not surprise, but the the garbage rules. And in Germany, they're very there might be confusing a bit. In Japan, it's another level. The level of care for garbage separation and all the rules. I had to print out the garbage rules and put it and paste them on my wall because I was afraid of screwing up. That's, that's how bad it was.
My friend,
Yeah.
have you ever been in Baden-Württemberg selecting garbage?
No, is it
You
bad?
need a master degrees. You
Yeah,
need them
it's like that. Yeah, is it like that?
like at least in Berlin you have Gilbesack. You just put it on the street and that's
I
it.
am.
Yeah, yeah.
You don't
No,
have that in Stuttgart?
no, no.
No.
Not on the countryside. No, I don't live in the city. And on the countryside you have recycling hof. And you have to go there and you have
No way. You have to go?
yes. Yes, you have of course.
Wow.
Of course, you have to go there. You have to first of all find a way to select it to gather it at home in separate because to make the separation there it's a disaster. Then you go there and you have a
No
you have a
way.
bin. You have a bin for plastic bottles. You have a bin for plastic cups, like the yogurt one. You have a
No
bin for
way.
foil. You have a bin for sonstigers, so everything that doesn't fit in the other
No
things.
way.
And then you have another bin for high value plastic, like when you have I don't know,
Is this a
a big can.
Baden-Württemberg thing? I've never heard of this
Yes,
before.
yes.
That
It's
sounds. What if you don't have a car?
not their problem.
Come on. This sounds horrible.
Yes, yes.
Wow.
And the thing is that I think the first 2 years I didn't know because you have a Resmul, which is we are
Yeah.
ramming about Germany now, but you have a Resmul which is
Yeah.
limited. Like mine is 120 liters, so you cannot make that much garbage in 2 weeks. And
Yeah.
then I didn't know what everyone was doing with the plastic, and then I found out about recycling health, and that was a
3
good
years?
moment, my friend. Yeah, yeah.
I,
2 years I
I'm
struggled.
surprised nobody came to your door knocking and shouted at you for not separating.
Yeah, they don't search inside your Resmul.
Well,
That's the advantage.
at least that's an advantage because in Japan they do. In Japan, there's actually like the municipality will come and like paste you a very passive aggressive sticker if you don't separate uh correctly, or they might actually fine you. If they find out that you didn't do it well, they might actually fine you.
But how do they find out?
You don't have anything else to do because everybody the 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 thing is everybody does it well and there's no crime, so people like the police doesn't have much to do there, so they are assigned to these trivial tasks. Like
That's
it's
kind of
very rare,
sad.
but it can happen. Like you should not screw up.
I mean, that's a surprise. I have to be honest. You did match my question really good because I didn't expect that anything could be worse
But
than
it's
in
a
Germany.
very orderly society. I mean, Tokyo is the amount of people and some stations is insane, but there's you don't feel overwhelmed because there's always, at least I didn't feel overwhelmed. I hate crowds, but I didn't feel overwhelmed because there's always a sense of order. Even with that amount of people, there's always order.
What's something about Japan or maybe Japanese culture that you think more people should know, Christian?
Mm. I think that this concept of striving for perfection is something that really inspired me. Like like all jobs are respected there, from garbage disposal to office man to no matter what how low your rank or your job is, it will always be respected. But you also have to perform in this job. And I had this story. I went to this ramen shop, super small place, like really like tiny. You could see like four people. The prices were super low, and I like there were two or three workers there, and I thought, "Wow, these people make minimum wage, and still the ramen tasted amazing." And there was this guy, he was working on making the noodles, like preparing the noodles from scratch, like he was like beating into the noodles and like whatever, and he was smiling while he was doing it. He was smiling and smiling all the time, and I just reflected this guy is truly enjoying this mundane task of just preparing noodles for this super small shop in this part of Kanda, which is not really, it's just like a worker's place, and he makes peanuts on the dollar, and is completely enjoying it and doing it the best he can. And then I thought, I'm, I have a much better job. I have much better work-life balance, and sometimes I complain about my job and why? Like I should try to do it as best as I can and not and think about just trying to enjoy and do it as best as I can.
I think happiness is a good choice.
Mm,
And I think that, but this is coming somehow from I see it at least in the area where I live, that complaining is something which is coming from the culture. Like there is, and I think you get it living here. You get
yeah, I think yeah, Germans have a bit reputation about complaining, I think, which
exactly, and
I'm also like sometimes do. So I'm not innocent, but
it's complaining at high level. They call it here. I try
mm,
to translate it word by word from German, but um, it's it's actually that. Like it's actually complaining about you go to a park why it's full, why it's empty. Like there is always a reason to complain,
mm,
and
yeah,
I think it's something that there are a lot of good things that we should take from the German culture, but I
yeah,
think
of
there's something
course,
which is not so good because it kind of gets your morals down. And I think this what you said, like that guy working, like you said, making pennies on a dollar, and being happy about that, enjoying
mm,
that moment, and not
mm,
decide not to complain. This is my job. I will do it as best as I can, and that's it. That's a really nice one. And
yeah,
if it's the same in the whole culture, if the
yeah.
statement is this or the situation is the same in the complete culture, that's even makes it more interesting.
Yeah, it just really stood out to me. But tell me, I'm curious, what made you move? to Germany, and why are you living here in the countryside, not in a city?
Good, fairly good questions.
Yeah.
I moved to Germany because I had the uh, for me it was a bit different. I was working in a German company in Romania. I was making good money, and I had a good life. And I was asked if I want to join the international headquarters here.
Okay.
And at first I said, I don't know. I'll do it for a year to see how it goes.
Mhm.
And in 2 months or 10 years since I'm here.
Yeah,
Uh, uh,
as it happens.
and as it happens, exactly, I came with my wife. Now in the meantime, we are three, so we have a son, which is made the things even more interesting. So he keeps saying that we were in Italy, I think 2 weekends ago, and the guy asked us where I'm from, and I instinctively said Romania. I said no, we are from Germany. Like my son answered. um, and that's why I moved initially here.
Mhm.
And why I'm living on the countryside, because the area where I live, I wanted to have a small house. I didn't aim for something huge,
Yeah,
but the area where I live, it has, and you know the prices in Germany, like
yeah,
it's not far away from Berlin. So instead of paying 500,000 for a 3 rooms apartment, I decided to go on the countryside to pay like mm, nothing in compared with that for a small house, and I enjoy
yeah,
some time outside.
yeah.
And I have to say, because of COVID happening, it was such a good decision
Yeah. No, I get
because
it.
I did it somewhere on, I think, 2017 we bought a house, and then on 2020 when the COVID is happening, it was so good to have a place to sit outside because I know
Yeah, that's
people
true.
that went crazy. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um, and
it's some.
anyhow, the city that I live close to is not Stuttgart. It's a bit south, but it's not the yellow of the egg, as the German would say. So, you have the prices of the big city, but you
Yeah,
don't
but
have
you
the
don't have to
benefits.
exactly. Yeah, I can totally see why now. Thank you for
Yeah.
explaining.
No worries. I'm happy to explain it. I also said to my colleagues, I think the prices are insane, but the benefits are not there. It's like,
Yeah, understandable.
uh, um, what would be a thing besides this perfectionism in the Japanese culture? What would be something that you say people in Germany would find strange in Japan?
The what can I explain? Just when you arrive in the airport, you see the amount of staff everywhere and doing the most menial jobs. Like they will be just standing there guiding the people, just standing there with a sign or just like doing this there. Like they have staff for the most menial jobs, like people on construction sites just standing outside telling the cars not to drive past it. Instead of putting like a cone or like a sign, they have people doing that. And it has a few reasons why. For once, it's very hard to fire people in Japan. It's almost impossible to fire people in Japan. Um, I know people say that if you have a unlimited contract here, you cannot be fired. But in Germany, in practice, if you get fired and you get some compensation, you can do it. Like having a unlimited contract is no certain way for you to be employed for life. It's nothing. But in Japan, it actually is. So these people are people, usually older people who do not have a real position anymore, or they don't know how to use a computer or whatever. So they get assigned the most menial task. And on one hand, probably very boring, and so, but on the other hand, they have a job, and it creates a certain social stability or social peace between people because they might have bad jobs, but they have jobs. So, so
It's so interesting because
yeah.
considering the German culture, that would never happen here because they would try to optimize the hell out of the process, and
I think
then
not anywhere else. I think it's a very Japanese thing. And
uh,
I don't know.
I come from Romania. We have the same case, but not because of the reasons that you were
Yeah,
mentioning. Just because we are poor, and
yeah,
it's cheaper to pay a guy to sit there and do that instead of
yeah,
putting a
yeah.
code.
You're right.
So
But then, yeah, yeah, they have all these type of staff everywhere, and then coming from Germany, where you have like one guy doing 30 things and not having staff anywhere, like the shock was very big to me. Like they have
correct.
staff everywhere. At least the thing is only in the city. The countryside in Japan is dying, but the cities have all the jobs and all the people. So
The countryside is dying.
the countryside in Japan is dying, and there's a lot of small towns in Japan that are dying, like literally dying. Like there's nobody living there. I don't know if you've heard of akiyas. Akiyas are like abandoned houses in Japan that now people are increasingly buying and renovating. But there's I think about 8 million abandoned houses in Japan, which
Oh
is
my
yeah,
god.
because mostly in the countryside because people move back to the city. The fertility rate is really bad in Japan. The
Because of the
countries
working.
the countries is dying out, so the countryside is losing all the population.
Isn't it interesting that they are getting themselves fitted in small matchboxes in the big city, and on the countryside there are houses that they could live in, and nobody wants to live there.
Yeah,
It's
it's
so
because there's no
interesting.
jobs. There's no jobs in
Yeah,
the countryside. That's the only reason, I think.
yeah, but I think you have a lot of people that are in the same situation as you when you are able to work remote, but still you choose to stay in the big city because of the benefits of the big city.
Yeah, but also Japanese society doesn't like COVID allowed remote working for a while, but nowadays it's very
Yeah.
few. Like the work structure and hierarchy is very strict. So yeah,
Uh,
remote work is not seen as a very viable thing there. Yeah, unfortunately.
it's the same like in Europe. They think if you work from home, you don't work actually.
Well, that increasingly they're calling everybody back into the office, which I think is,
Yeah,
and you know how the tech market is right now. It's an absolute
it
disaster, but
it's a
they are allowed to
sensitive
do it
topic.
because the employers got the power back that they lost or didn't have during Corona. So
I keep saying that it's interesting for me how it was sold like a benefit for us in the
Mm.
moment when it was a benefit for the company, and now when it
Yeah,
should be a benefit for us, it's not a benefit for us anymore. It's crazy, but
about
it is how
control.
it is.
It's-
Absolutely. Um, have you celebrated any kind of? Were you in Japan when any kind of holidays, local celebration, festival happened?
New Year's is extremely different.
Oh,
I don't know if you've heard, but Berlin is like a war zone during New Year's. Like
yeah.
there's people throwing.
Berlin,
I don't.
the whole Germany, my
Yeah, but
friend, the whole
In
Germany.
Berlin, it's actually dangerous to go outside and
I have
in certain
videos.
zones. Yeah,
I live in the small village. I
yeah,
have videos that I think it's like I never been to war, but I'm pretty sure that's the sound that you have during war.
yeah. It's pretty bad. So here during New Year's, I don't go out of my apartment. Really. But in Japan, it's a family. It's a family thing. And when midnight sounded, I lived right in the middle of Tokyo. I didn't hear one single thing during at midnight. Not one shout, not one firework, nothing. It was almost creepy. The silence that happened at midnight there. It's just not a thing to celebrate loudly. At least not there's like the central parts of Shibuya and Shinjuku, which are like the party type kind of places. There's people congregated there, but aside from that, there's no fireworks. There's no people outside, no people shouting. It's very quiet.
That's interesting. That's really interesting. Um, and for Christmas you're there.
Yeah, I was there for Christmas as well.
How is Christmas in a non-Christian country?
Honestly, I mean, it's not celebrated in that sense. It's not a holiday in Japan, but I saw more Christmas decoration in Japan than I did in Berlin. everywhere is illuminated. Everywhere there's like signs. Mm, there's lights everywhere. It's very beautiful during Christmas, but it's not seen as a holiday. The thing is, it's Christmas is it's a couple's holiday. It's
Okay.
yeah.
I have a vivid memory in my head. The Romanian television was broadcasting language classes on a free TV, like on the national TV, always on the second and on the second national TV station. And I was had nothing to watch, and I was watching language classes for strange languages, like every possible language that you can imagine. And I do remember one lesson, which was the Japanese lesson,
Okay.
and they will say that uh, Christmas is Christmasu or something like this, and there
Christmas,
was some,
Christmas.
yeah, exactly. And that was something that stuck into my head. Makes no sense, but it stuck into
That's
my
a
head.
very specific memory.
Exactly. Yeah, I cannot explain why. I said I have to tell the story. This is the moment of that memory.
Yeah,
This.
no, it's good. It's good that you have it in your mind. Yeah, Christmas is very different. And there's a lot of families that celebrate by eating KFC for Christmas. The thing is, KFC uh, did the best gaslighting campaign back in the 80s or 90s. They convinced the Japanese population that that's how it's that's how it's celebrated in the West by eating fried chicken. So, yeah,
No way.
a lot of families. You have to reserve your KFC chicken many months in advance for Christmas because otherwise it's sold out.
This is the most shocking piece of information that I got in this
Yeah.
discussion.
Yeah. I mean, not everybody
Why?
does it, but it's very popular.
Makes no. Yeah, makes no sense.
There's a lot of things in Japan that yeah, they acquired, but they put their twist on it. Say, say it like that.
Considering the fact that it was temporary, Christian, have you
Yeah.
ever had the have you ever experienced homesickness?
It's not from Germany
It's
or
a hard
like in
question
general.
for you. It's a hard question for you because
Eh,
but still I would say home is still in Germany for you, right? So
Yes, honest. Well, the thing is,
it's hard.
I never missed. I didn't miss Berlin for one day in Japan. Honestly,
That's a hard statement.
I think everybody's different. Everybody's like experience will be different, but I personally did not miss Germany during my time there.
How did the your experience in Japan change you, Christian?
It changed my life, basically. Brought like it brought meaning back to my life. Like I really enjoy learning about Japan now. I learning Japanese now. I have a Japanese girlfriend now. She's living in Japan, obviously. Um, yeah, I like every chance I get, I'll get back to Japan. If I can do the 6 months in Japan next year, I'll do them too. Let's see. Um, it brought a life. I mean, not a life purpose per se, but it it made me want to do something, learn about the country, learn more about Japanese, learn more about the people, get more.
Gave you
Yeah,
gave you purpose.
exactly. If I could, if the circumstances allow it, I would move to Japan. If I could.
It's hard to get a permanent visa.
Yes, and the jobs are very few. Or I mean, in tech,
Hmm.
at least the jobs are scarce for foreigners, and the salaries are much lower. The conditions are much worse. So yeah, that's why I said if the conditions match, I would move to Japan, but I would not really want to downgrade my life situation if it meant moving to Japan. And there needs to be a balance. So
Hmm.
I think Japan is personally, I think the best place to live for me, but it's not the best place to work. So it's and I think many Japanese people would agree that the work experience in Japan is really bad. So yeah.
You said that you couldn't expand the visa, right? So it was only for 6 months.
You have to wait 6 months in order to apply for it again. It cannot be extended.
Okay.
Mm. Yeah.
Um, what advice would you give to someone considering the same move that you have done?
First, see if you qualify because the the requirements are a bit steep. Then um, I would really try to, yeah, dig into the requirements and the application forms and how to apply because it's not that straightforward and the official documentation is very sparse. I'm actually, well, I don't know, shameful plugin. I'm now working on uh selling PDF guides for people moving to Japan or Tokyo as a digital nomad.
Send me the link. I will link it
Yeah,
down in the
yeah.
description.
Um, yeah, because it's not very straightforward. There's a lot of things that I learned by experience, and I had to call immigration a few times because it's they don't explain what
Mhm.
certain things. So I had to find that all by myself, and now I'm looking forward to share this experience with others. And I would also make sure that your employer agrees with it because I see people moving moving to Japan for a few months without telling anybody and using a VPN, hoping that nobody will catch them. But I would not advise anybody to do that.
That's a risky business, my friend.
Yeah.
That's a risky business.
Yeah.
I mean, and if we, I mean, the VPN, a VPN is just a cover, a dumb cover, if you ask me, because at the end, that's not the most important. I think, what do you do if they suddenly say, okay, tomorrow you have to come to the office?
Exactly.
Like,
And technically, you're not allowed. Well, it's a gray zone to work
it's a gray zone, yeah.
to work on a tourist visa because people go and work on a tourist visa, and it's a gray zone. It's I've heard of cases where they've actually caught people working there, so they get deported or banned from the country. So it's unusual, but it could happen. So just be on the safe side.
What was the funniest event that's happened to you there?
The funniest event.
Maybe a lost in translation, maybe something that was a misunderstanding, something that
Hmm. Wait, let me think. I think I have a couple, but I need to remember which ones exactly. Um. So I went to this. I had a place that sold tonkatsu, which is the pork, um, breaded fried pork near my place. And it was a family restaurant. It was a very small place. And I went there for the first time, and the door was closed, and there were no windows. And so I opened the door, and I was like, "Oh my God!" It's like it's a really. It looked like somebody's house. It was full of stuff. It was very disorganized, and there were a few people there, and they all were obviously all Japanese, looking at me, staring. And I was like, "Oh my God, I don't want to be here," but I already opened the door, so I have to go inside. And I saw one place open, so I went there and sat down. And then the owner, an old lady, came to me. It's like, no, 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 no. Like she told me to sit up in Japanese. Like she was all stressed because she had put like delivery boxes on top of that place, and she's like, no, you cannot sit here. So I had to sit in another place near. I had to wait for her to make space for me. And then I was like, I want some water. So I saw like a water pitcher like near the door. So I stood up and I served myself water. And then the lady came to me. No, it's like I was so stressed. I was
Yes.
sweating. I was sweating. I was like, please get me out of here. I just ordered the chicken. I ate as fast as I could, and then I paid.
So like 2 minutes in, you destroyed all the habits
I
inside that
didn't know
place.
the etiquette. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't understand half of the things she was telling me, but I just knew I fucked up. It's just I needed to get out. I don't know what I did wrong, but I had to get out.
That's nice. Have you? I guess you've been outside of Tokyo as well, right? So you visited surroundings as well. Did you experience some strange encounters with the wildlife from there, or you didn't want such?
No, I never saw. Um, yeah, I never. They say there's a lot of bears in the countryside. You need to be careful, but I was never in such a remote place to have to fear.
Mm-hmm. Okay, like that you visited the, let's say, the populated places which are
Yeah.
not so far away.
Yeah, because if you want to go to like more remote places, you need a car, and I never rented a car.
Okay, and you could go everywhere with the public transport.
Public transport inside Tokyo is phenomenal. Like really, I don't know about Stuttgart or Baden-Württemberg, but the Berlin infrastructure is like slowly crumbling down. Like the trains are very late. Like even the public trains here are very late, or the lines are breaking
You
down.
you are
And
complaining like a German.
yeah, but it's gotten pretty bad. Like in Berlin, it wasn't like this when I arrived here. It's gotten worse throughout the years. And in Tokyo, everything is super punctual, super clean as well. And then during in public transport, you're not supposed to talk. You're supposed to be silent. It's yeah, it's the etiquette there. It's very quiet. It's very peaceful in public transport.
Also,
Yeah.
if you go in a train for a long distance.
Yes. If you want it, you you should not talk on the phone on the train. If you want to talk on the phone in Tokyo, you have to get out of get out of the train, or if you're in a long distance, you need to go to certain areas where you can talk on the phone.
What do you do if you have a kid with you?
Something else, but yeah,
Okay,
it can't be helped. But if it as an adult, you're not supposed to do noise.
okay.
Yeah. But kids
Interesting,
are
interesting.
very quiet too. Like I know in Japan, kids are very well behaved. No, not
Of
even
course
this.
not.
I don't know. It's just it's a cultural thing. They're like
Absolutely, I'm just
it's yeah.
joking. Yeah, I'm just joking.
Yeah.
um, where is home, Christian?
Excellent question. Personally, I don't know. I when I came back to Berlin, I honest well, I I also had rented my place. I rented my
Hmm.
place. So they had changed a lot of things in my place and everything was different. But aside from that, when I came back to Berlin and I arrived in my apartment, I didn't feel like home. I felt like I was like entering a strange place. I wasn't feeling. But being in Japan, I also knew my time was finite. I couldn't stay, so Japan wasn't also my home. So, but I've never felt completely at ease at any place. When I lived in Costa Rica, I thought I don't really belong here. In Germany, I've never felt like I really belonged here either. So my home is a very difficult question. I've never felt completely at ease at any place.
I think you know when you'll find it, and I think it's a feeling, it's not a place.
It is. You're right.
This is my experience until
You're
now, and I think
absolutely right.
Priyanka, in one of the episodes, I will never forget that statement. Like, you belong as an expat, you belong everywhere and nowhere.
That's true.
And this is the experience that every expat is going through. Every expat, and for
That's
you
true.
even Germany, it's an expat place, and you don't belong to Costa Rica anymore because you left. I have the same feeling about Romania. I
Yeah.
go there, everything is nice for
Do you
two
feel
days,
like a
but then
foreigner when you go back to Romania?
not a foreigner, but I don't belong there anymore.
Uh,
I I don't know. Maybe it's a foreigner. I don't know. I cannot really qualify the feeling that I have, but I know for sure that's not the place where I feel comfortable anymore.
Yeah, I feel the same when going back to Costa Rica.
And you are not from there because you changed in ways that those people haven't.
Yes.
And I'm not saying that there is a right or wrong. I'm just saying that you are different, and that's why they are not. They are still there. They are living there. So if we talk about my case, they are living in the same place since 20, 30 years, and nothing has changed for them. Like nothing.
Mm.
And and it's clear that they are still there. They don't want to go anywhere. They don't understand why European Union is so important. They don't understand why it's this and that because they haven't traveled, and you are not belonging there anymore. You are just um, but you are also never a part of the culture from here as well because you still have your heritage. You're Costa Rican, mine Romanian.
Yeah.
There is a small part in you which will say this is this I cannot completely embrace. And
Yeah.
but trust me, you'll know when it will happen. And I do feel more and more that it's a it's a feeling. I have a short story. We had a business trip. Sorry, we had a road trip with my wife and my kid last year in the U.S. We did the East Coast for 3 weeks, and we lived in different random Airbnbs. And I have to say, after we arrived, we settled in. 2 hours later, I felt like home because my wife was there, my kid was there, and that was it. And this is not something that you can associate with the place. I think that's the makes it a big difference.
But you're right. I actually felt the closest I felt to home in Japan as well. So I think I can I can I can relate to that situation. Do you feel at home in Germany, like where you live right now?
Yeah,
That's
as
good
long
to
as
know.
as long as my
Well, you
wife
have
and
your
my kid
family.
are
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, that's
Exactly.
nice.
So of course I still have my parents in Romania. I visit them. I like them, but my home is
Mm.
here with my wife and my kid. And
That's good.
that's it's not about the place that I feel
It's not the
at
physical
home in.
place, it's
Exactly.
who you are with.
Exactly.
Mm,
Exactly. That's the thing.
mm.
But the feeling of belonging is a hard one, and this is something which I'm telling you also from my experience. This feeling of belonging is going to be something that you'll search for still, and not
Interesting.
about home, like really belonging somewhere, like to a culture. And this is something that it's hard to adapt
Yeah.
to. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, Christian, what's um I forgot what I want to ask you.
All good. All good,
I
man.
went I went on the rant.
All good, man.
You said you are an introvert, man. You are not. You are a really cool person. I'm telling you this.
I can fake being. It's true.
I'm sorry for that. Then
No
I'm sorry
worries.
that I got you to go through this.
No worries.
Um,
It's been very nice so far.
did you develop a new hobby while you were in Japan? Like, did you had time to go into that direction?
Qualified as a hobby, but I walked so much in Tokyo. I found Tokyo be so walkable, so nice to walk because first you can walk anywhere and it's safe, of course. I mean, Berlin is safe, but I wouldn't go to certain parts of Berlin at night here. So that wasn't a problem in Tokyo. And also, you always found something fascinating there. Like you'll be walking in a very dense place, and a few streets later, you'd find a lovely shrine, a temple with nobody there, super peaceful, and you just sit down and admire it because all the shrines are so beautiful there. You'd go walking through a street full of cafes and like nice restaurants, and you just sit down somewhere and just have a coffee. And also, cars cars are not allowed to park on the street there, so the streets feel strangely like they have cars, obviously, but the streets feel say strangely more inviting because there's no cars on the road. So you feel like this is more a pedestrian zone than a car zone at many places. So I loved walking through Tokyo. Sometimes I just dropped off on a random station and then I walked from there to home and take 2 or 3, 2, 3, 4 hours to get home. Just walking. Just enjoying the view, the day, and just walking around.
You are my kind of guy.
Yeah.
I did enjoy discovering places through walking because just skipping from one tourist attraction to the other tourist attraction makes no
No,
fun for
I
me.
don't. No, same. Same.
And also New York, I have
But
to
New
say,
York is great to do that.
it's crazy. And I was the first trip that I had with my wife alone after the my son was, I think, 4. We are here alone, so my mother was for a time here to stay with him. I think we had 4 days. We had like a city break. We went to New York, and we walked 65,000 steps in 3 days.
Yeah, 20,000. Yeah, that
Yeah,
rings. Yeah,
and like if you do it one day is okay, but if you do it like 3 days in a row, for on the third day you are. But it's so enjoyable. Like
yeah.
really walking, and try to just to just to feel the city, not to. I I think we've seen 2, 3 of the tourist spots, but that was it. So
Yeah.
there was not something that I was hunting for. I was just there to enjoy the city experience, to walk, to go with the metro, to see places, to
I
see
think
different sides of city.
when you, at least if you go to a city, you should maybe, well, obviously see some sightseeing things, some famous things, but have 1 or 2 days where you just have no plan. You just walk around and see what's up. I think those are for me the most enjoyable days.
One of the nicest days was walking through Chelsea, through this rich neighborhood. Not because of the richness, no, just because of that. No, no, I'm honest. Not
No,
because of the,
because
I
of
don't
course
know.
not.
No, just because of seeing the houses, seeing
Yeah,
how
of
they
course.
live
They
there,
must be
seeing like
beautiful. Yeah.
it's so beautiful. And
Yeah.
this is there was also the Google store in Chelsea. I also that crazy place to have a Google store, but
There's a Google
I,
store there.
yeah,
Okay.
it's a Google, like a really own Google store with all the text that they have. It's strange, but
I've never heard of that.
uh,
That sounds weird.
it's it's strange, but it's in Chelsea, and that's why I'm saying you are my kind of guy. The walking to
Mm,
discover the city is nothing that
mm.
I cannot recommend it enough. I think it's one of the best experience that you can have in a city, and you can understand how the locals live and so on. Not only going running through the tourist
I completely
places.
agree.
Yeah. Um. I will I will start the other way around. I recently read an interesting book written by two Japanese philosophers, which is called "The Courage of Not Being Liked." Um, an amazing book. Again, I think I've said it before in one of the episodes, and I have to say it again. It's a really good book, especially in the world that we live in. Did you had some cultural discoveries in Japan, like books, movies, music that you only knew from there?
Mm, I well, I did discover more Japanese music. There's this there's this genre called city pop. I don't know if you've ever heard it. It's more of
Like
a yeah.
like K-pop style, or
No,
it's
no.
different?
City pop is a genre that was famous in Japan in the late 80s to early 90s. That was the height of the Japanese bubble when the economy was really high before it came crashing down in the 90s. And it has this jazzy, this it's like jazz, rock, and pop at the same time. It's very
Oh,
city
interesting.
it really city pop is very fitting because it makes you think of like a city. And it's become very famous in the last few years, especially with like Gen Zers, like people even younger than me, because I don't know why it became so famous, but it's kind of sad and upbeat at the same time. It's very presenting of city, and I going through some stores in Japan, record stores. I bought some records, vinyls. I collect vinyls, and I bought a few of those who are very coveted actually in Europe. People go to Japan to actually buy all these records and come back to Europe and sell them on a markup because there's a lot of people paying a lot. for these limited
Like
records. Yeah.
you basically made an investment.
No, I didn't buy the expensive ones. I just bought
Okay.
a few cheap ones.
Okay.
Yeah, no.
Um, and what about local culture scene? Like, did you had I don't know, have you experienced any theater, any play, or
No,
it?
unfortunately, I there's this. Unfortunately, if I, the thing is because everything is Japanese, I would have
Yeah, for
worked
sure.
harder. But there's a few. The Japanese theater is called, well, the most Japan famous theater is called Kabuki, which
Mm-hmm.
is, I don't know if you've heard of Kabuki. I think it's all
I,
performed by men, and it could be drama or comedy or whatever. And I was interested in doing that, but it's in Japanese, so I never had the courage to go and see a play. Yeah.
that's yeah, it's a hard thing because you don't speak if you don't speak the language. I think that's something which makes it hard to
Yeah.
understand. But I think plays feels gives you the feeling of the local culture to see how they are played and so on.
Mm.
Um, Christian, it was a pleasure for me to get to know you and to get to know your experience from Japan.
Same. It
Um,
was a pleasure talking to you. It was nice to know more about you, and yeah, like that you speak all with all these people, but you also have your background is very cool to see.
Thank you, Christian. Before we wrap this up, I usually have a set of rapid fire questions tailored
Sure.
on the guest. Yours, of course, have a focus on Japan. Um, Most used Japanese word.
Just it's
What
okay.
does?
They offer you all kinds of. Do you want a plastic bag? 다이저브. Do you want uh uh sticks? How you call them? Uh
Chopstick, like
chopsticks. Do you want chopsticks?
chopsticks.
다이저브. Do you want the receipt? 다이저브. Whatever you want, just say 다이저브. Or somebody offered you something on the street, 다이저브. Like 다이저브.
Like you don't want it.
Yeah, exactly. It's okay.
Yeah,
It's
okay,
like it's okay,
okay.
basically.
What's one Tokyo neighborhood that everyone should visit?
um, Nakano.
Nakama.
Nakano. It's not that famous yet, but it's becoming more famous.
Thank you. Um, what was the daily go-to convenience store? Was it 7-Eleven? Was it Family Mart? Was it Lawson? Or was something different?
Family Mart or Lawson. Both are good.
Okay. um, Best app for meeting people in Tokyo?
I'm left.
Time left. But it's interesting also for Europe. I didn't know about the app.
It's available. It's probably available in Stuttgart as well. It's everywhere. Everywhere there's some sort of
that's interesting.
concentration.
I'm interested if they have a family, the family variant of it.
No,
That could
I
be
don't
an
think so.
idea.
It's more like a singles thing.
Um, Worst thing about the digital nomad visa?
Like the requirement.
No, I think the length.
Yeah.
I think the first answer was the one that I honestly expected, that it only takes it only lasts like 6 months. Um, Most unexpectedly emotional moment in Tokyo.
Oh, no. Well, this is not a short fire question. It's I was at this restaurant, this curry rice chain called Koko Ichibanya. It's very famous. And I hadn't ordered my food. I was still looking at the menu, and I was sitting on a table, and there were no more other spots left, and this family comes in. There were a few single places still left. And then the manager comes to me, is like, could you please move to one of the single places? The table, like the family needs the table. I'm like, sure, no, absolutely no problem. I moved one seat, that's it. And when I wanted to pay, I see that uh they had uh they had erased my drink from the receipt, and was like, but I ordered a drink. It's like, it's on us because you moved places. Like, somehow it made me so emotional because I thought it was such a small thing to do. It didn't bother me at all. And then they taking the drink out of my receipt. I just felt, I don't know, something that would never happen to me anywhere else. It's,
That's really interesting.
yeah.
Literally, it's really interesting. Um, one item that you wish you could have brought with you, but you didn't.
More t-shirts, cool t-shirts.
They
I
have so cool t-shirts.
They have Japanese people have very good sense of fashion, and I almost
Interesting.
didn't shop anything. I only bought souvenirs, but nothing for me. So,
That's why we have the internet, my friend.
yeah. No, but I'll buy it next time I'm there. I'll buy more.
It's so nice that you don't say if I go, you just say
No,
next time
it's a
when I'm
matter of
there.
fact. I have to.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a matter of fact.
yeah. Um, the final one, Christian. Tokyo in one word.
One. It's difficult. It's gonna sound strange, but for me,
Nice. Thank you a lot. Thanks a lot for the time, and thank you for sharing your experience in Tokyo. I
thank you for
appreciate you a
having
lot.
me and for having this lovely discussion.
It was lovely for me. It was a cool and heartwarming for me. You're an amazing person, Christian, and
Thank you,
keep
you
that
too,
in your
Paul.
mind.
That's very nice of you. You're right.
And hope we do it after your next 6 months experience again.
Let's
I
see. Let's see where the wind takes me.
Yeah. If you ever want to have a chat, let me know. I will be more than happy to have you again.
Sure.
And um, where people can find your PDF,
TokyoDigitalNomad.com.
I will link it down in the video description.
That's very kind of
Christian,
you. Many thanks.
thanks so much. Talk to you soon.
Thank you. You too.
Bye.
Bye.